this bell seemed to resonate in a different way across the... Anyway, a couple of announcements. One is I just shared with everyone on the WhatsApp. There is a retreat that we are scheduling, of course, primarily a Zoom retreat for August 14 to 16. If you look at your WhatsApp group message there, is from the 14th to the 16th. If you look at the poster flyer that Ellen and her team put together, if you look at the dates, right, it will look a little bit strange. It says 14/15 and 16. That is not a typo. That is not a mistake. It is because it will be 14 in the West, 14th evening in the West, and then it's 15th in Asia. It will end on the 16th, both for Asia and for the West. Meaning for the West, then we will end on Sunday the 16th, right around noontime. Which then in Asia, especially Malaysia, Singapore, it will end on Sunday, close to the end of that day, close to 11 p.m., 12 midnight, somewhere around there. So essentially, it's a 2-day retreat, divided into, I think, altogether 11 sessions, which of course, depending on where you are, you probably won't be, definitely you won't be doing all 11, because all the 11 sessions are basically from the beginning to the end. And so it's continuous. So basically what will happen is we'll create a Zoom room where throughout these 2 days and nights, there will be a group practicing this practice. So this is almost like the traditional round-the-clock practice called Drikung. But some of the requirements of a Drikung is that it's around the clock, non-stop chanting of the basic mantra, as well as it has to be at least 5 days and nights before it's called a Drikung. So of course this is not literally a Drikung, but in spirit it is sort of like the style of a Drikung. For those of us in the West, then on the night of the 14th is when we will start. Then we will do 1 session, then go to sleep, then wake up the next morning and start the sessions of the next day into the evening. Then at that time, of course, on the Asia side, soon then they will go to bed. Then we in the West will continue the rest of the day. Then it comes for, in the West, Saturday evening. Then for Asia, it will be Sunday morning. Then they continue there. Then we go to bed. Then we get up and then we finish the retreat together with them. This is a medicine Buddha practice, but it's a little bit different or unusual from the general medicine Buddha practice. If you look at the photo, already you can see that the form of medicine Buddha is a little different from the form that we are often used to. Here the Buddha, medicine Buddha, appears in the Sambhogakaya form. So he is dressed in all the jewels, all the ornaments, the Sambhogakaya ornaments, the crown, the adornments, the silks. This was something that Drikung Chodra, or Dhammakirti, right, the author of the commentary of Gongchik that we're reading. So it's Drigung Dharmakirti who kind of popularized this practice within the Drigung lineage. It is actually from a dharma cycle known as Yuto Ningtik. Yuto Ningtik. Ningtik traditions, heart essence is the meaning of Ningtik. But Ningtik is actually refers to a genre of it refers to a genre of practices and teachings that were concealed as dharmas. So all the different dharmas, within the dharmas, there is a group of dharmas. They are all with the name Ningtik. So the most famous, probably, some of you might know, is like Longchen Ningtik. Like Words of My Perfect Teacher, that text is a commentary on the Longchen Ningtik preliminary practices. Then there are things like Kandro Ningtik, Yapshi Ningtik, so heart essence. So it's a Nyingma style collection of practices. And the Yuto Ningtik is attributed to the, what you could say, the founder of the medical tradition of Tibet, Yuto Yongden Gompo. And there are two figures in Tibetan history that has that name. They're separated by a few centuries. So now they are called Yuto Yongden Gompo the elder and Yuto Yongden Gompo the junior. The elder is someone who is said to, I think, to have lived around Guru Rinpoche's time. Of course, historians will say that's a kind of a semi-mythic figure. And then later, another Yuto Yongden Gompo, and he is actually a historical person, we know for sure, and he is the kind of main authority on Tibetan medicine. So this medicine Buddha practice comes from that lineage of the ancient Tibetan Buddhist medical tradition. Yuto Yongden Gompo basically synthesized indigenous Tibetan healing tradition with Chinese and Indian Buddhist as well as non-Buddhist, and also Tibetan doctors will say it includes, insofar as the medical tradition goes, it includes Greek influence, Muslim medical influence. So drawing from all the healing traditions in the known world in Tibet, Yuto Yongden Gompo put together this medical system. And so Yuto Yongden Gompo the junior not only had an extensive medical system, which then became the basis of all the other Tibetan medical system, including Drigung Dharmakirti himself has a medical system that he kind of popularized. So it's known as the Drigung medical system. And so Drigung Dharmakirti's medical system, it's said that it's based on his having actualized the activities of the medicine Buddha of this particular practice that we're going to do. Obviously, all medicine Buddha practice, if you have the right attitude, if you have the right approach to it, they're all equally potent, equally powerful. I'm telling you this just so that you have a little bit of background and understanding for the particular sadhana that we're going to do. It's also, for this retreat, it's also good if you have medicine that you're taking, whether allopathic medicine or, the different forms of traditional medicine. It's good that during this practice, the shrine for your practice, that you put your medicine that you take all onto the mandala, meaning the shrine, the retreat shrine that you should put together for this retreat. And then the mantra recitation then can be a way to bless the medicine. So this is going to be done so that you will be assigned into the different groups. Several centers are participating. So, of course, in Asia, there will be different groups. And then in the West, there will be in different groups. Then, of course, you're not limited to the groups. You can also join in when other groups are doing leading the practice. So throughout these 2 days, the different sessions will be led by different people. And we'll publish that schedule. Of course, the main person is His Eminence Trisap Rinpoche. So he will give the transmission on Friday night in the West, Saturday morning in Asia. And then, of course, he will be leading a lot of the sessions in Asia. And then probably for us in the West, Saturday morning will be Saturday evening there. Rinpoche will again be with us. Then Rinpoche rests, then we continue, and so on and so forth. All of the practices will be done in Tibetan. So then what will also happen is before the weekend of August 14, 15, the various centers, participating centers, their teachers, their lamas will be giving a brief explanation for this practice prior to that evening. So I'll be scheduling like maybe the weekend before that weekend, teachings on the practice, kind of a general brief overview of the practice, the different sections. It's a more involved sadhana. I think I've explained before that it's not as involved as, say, some of you who participated in the Naratmya retreat with His Holiness. Not that complicated, but definitely, more details than, say, our Avalokiteshvara sadhana that we did for Sakadawa. So it's a little more involved. So then the respective lamas, teachers, will be doing this maybe the weekend before, or maybe, wherever their centers schedule. For Latin America, for now, for sure that Khenpo Punso Tenzin's center in Chile, and then all the associated centers, they will join, and Khenpo Punso Tenzin will sort of lead in the Spanish speaking. And so he will be offering teachings on this as well. So we are coordinating a number of people, a number of places, and more details will be coming. This you can share with anyone, the news about this, and so people can join this retreat. And so So the Zoom information, we'll be giving out. So the best thing is that if you join this retreat, you can do the entire retreat. If you find that you are going to be doing less than half of the entire, or I would say less than 2/3 of the entire retreat, then I would say don't register and don't participate on Zoom. We will live stream on Facebook. If your circumstance and schedule don't allow you to do at least 2/3 of this retreat, then just join as you wish on Facebook stream, live streaming. But if you can do, at least 2/3, then yes, join us on Zoom. And when you join us on Zoom, I ask that you mostly leave your camera video on. Now, you can point that video or the camera to your retreat shrine that you create so that it's not facing you. But the point of having the camera on is really so that there is more visual connection, whether it's connecting to your shrine, your space, that's fine. But we do ask that you keep your video camera on. Yeah. Any questions about this particular program?
Dr. Lai, did you say that the week before this retreat that you would be explaining this practice or going over
Yes.
it? Or,
yes.
and how will that happen? On this regular channel that we're using, or you'll let us know?
Yeah, I mean, all the details will come,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
With respect to the continuous nature of the retreat, what allowance should we make for meals and so forth during the
Oh no, there are again these sessions that are break times and all of that, so it's not really that different from other retreats.
Thank you.
So in between sessions, there's time. Some of it is an hour, some of it is even 2 hours. Yeah, so during the teachings, we will say more, but of course the schedule will publish soon. But during the teachings, it will be emphasized on, like, even when you're taking meals and all that, you should not like behave as if you're not in retreat. So this is a more kind of more emphasis on being mindful even during the breaks, during doing other things, that you are in the retreat mode. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, so you do have to kind of get your pets or partners' permission or agreement that, okay, you're going to be in retreat for 2 days, and even if you are walking around in the garden or what, you're not going to start chatting and be busy and all that. Yeah. Again, I will say, if you can commit to at least being present in this way, including during the breaks, for 2/3 of this whole retreat, then please do join us on Zoom. Right? But if you cannot, then you should just do as you can over Facebook live stream. What you get out of it, it's all what you put into it. That's all. So the form of the medicine Buddha is different, and the mantra is also a little different. I have a preliminary, another text that has been translated from Kyobpa Rinpoche's teachings to the assemblies. I think we've translated as like public teachings. Sokche is the collection, but I think teachings for the assemblies, I think is a better, more nicer translation. Public teachings. So teachings for the assemblies. So this short text, is a short teaching, is called "In Response to Questions on How to Practice, an Instruction on Abandoning Fame, Gain, and Wrong Concepts." In response to questions on the manners of practice addressed to the Sublime Father, the Peerless Guru. Anyone who does not put bone to stone, that means get serious, put bone to stone. Anyone who does not put bone to stone in their mind, but instead takes a wishy-washy approach to an easy-peasy sort of Dharma practice, and tries to accomplish awakening for the sake of fame and gain, has fallen prey to delusion and wrong concepts. Do not act as such, my sons. Instead of tossing flour on yourself, and this is like praising yourself, tossing flour on yourself. Do not act as such, my sons. Instead of tossing flour on yourself and cultivating pride and narcissism, practice in the following way. The source of suffering, the ocean of samsara, is ignorance, fixation on self. And it is the force of intense suffering that propels those bearing the two limbs of attachment and aversion to move around in the city of samsara's three realms. Seek out a place of solitude devoid of the terrifying and murderous butchers who sever the life force of happiness and liberation with the razors of concepts of subject and object. Atop the lofty peaks of non-dual wisdom sits the Guru of spontaneous presence upon the seat of unconditional compassion. Adorned with ornaments of the two accumulations complete, the Guru dons the crown of the lineage of accomplished masters. With the hook that is the mind of bodhicitta, the Guru catches sentient beings equal to the sky, and with the great fire of wisdom and realization, the Guru incinerates the firewood of the three realms of samsara. The aspiration of the yogi to never be separate from such a precious Guru as this, for even a single instant, is truly astounding. The self-arisen bliss of Samantabhadra is peaceful, awake, and uncompounded. At the feet of the precious Guru, the source of all joy and happiness, I bow. It is because the courageous bodhisattvas act as servants of the three jewels, servants to all wandering beings, and are without any fixation on a self, that they put their bodies and possessions and their virtue of the three times to the service of everything, to the service of everyone. Who would fixate upon the self? The last line is sort of the sense of like, why? Why would one fixate upon a self? So, yet to be fully edited. This is the teaching on in response to questions on how to practice, an instruction on abandoning fame, gain, and wrong concepts. After there's a few more that we selected for this round, maybe 3 more. One is a little longer, it's about 5 pages. Then from this point on, we are now starting, now that the translators have done a number of different texts, getting a sense of how these texts, their language, their style, they're feeling more confident, and I'm asking that we begin to choose texts that are longer, so it's more sustained, a particular theme, a particular topic. So we're looking at longer texts, between 8 to 15 pages even. I still have, we have been getting good support, so I still have those pages to pay them. So we're going to look for a few texts that are longer in their length. Yeah. So we have arrived at, we have been looking at Vajra statement, chapter 1. 20, 21, and 22. Right? This is when Kyobpa Rinpoche is drawing these lines, right, between Nangpa and not Nangpa. And then once that you have become Nangpa, then between the lines between Hinayana and Mahayana, then the lines between Mantrayana and Sutrayana. Mantrayana, its synonyms are, secret Mantrayana, and also what we tend to call Vajrayana. But in the Tibetan material, usually the term is Mantrayana or secret Mantrayana. And then the other side, the other tradition is usually called Sutrayana or Paramitayana or Lakshanayana, which is characteristics, the vehicle of characteristics. So that's the statement 22. Sobisch translates here. The difference between mantra and characteristics is empowerment. So he helps us by adding some words so that we know that mantra is referring to mantrayana and characteristics is referring to the vehicle, the yana of characteristics, sutrayana, which is also called sutrayana sometimes. So now, statement 23. If either mantra or the vehicle of characteristics is lacking, complete awakening cannot be attained. So this is given in response to people claim that awakening is attained either by the vehicle of perfections, paramitayana, or by mantra. So basically the gist here is Kyobpa Rinpoche is saying, with regards to like the paramitayana, or the sutrayana, or the characteristics yana, or secret mantra, or vajrayana. So not surprising now, you should not be surprised now. He says that although we talk about there being these two yanas, it is really not the case that you can say, oh, I'm going to achieve Buddhahood by practicing this yana only, or I'm going to achieve Buddhahood by practicing this jhana only. In fact, you should not be surprised now, right? If I say, according to Kyobpa Rinpoche, right, the three vehicles are not three ways of getting to the same place. There are three ways headed to the same place, but to get to this place, in fact, you need all three. And then even extended to 84,000, right? The 84,000 are not like 84,000 options, but the 84,000 are all necessary to get to the place that we call Buddha. So then likewise here in this context of dividing the Buddha's teachings into the general teachings of Paramita Jhana and the more specialized teachings of secret mantra jhana, Kyobpa Rinpoche says here that you need both to achieve Buddhahood. Earlier, we also saw how he would say, because what Paramita Jhana does is say, you could say, I like to use the analogy of like, if you have a piece of wood and you are preparing it, polishing it to have a nice like tabletop, right? So first you use a planer, very big and rough, to kind of level your piece of wood. You plane it, right? Then you use like sandpaper, a coarser sandpaper, a few rounds, right? Then you use finer sandpaper, a few more rounds. And then you use very, very fine for the real beautiful end polish, that you can see all the wood grain and everything. So likewise, all these different 84,000, three vehicles, two vehicles, they are increasingly finer ways of refining, of polishing away the adventitious stains, the afflictive emotions. So basically then, Paramita Jhana or characteristics jhana or sutra jhana is the more general polishing. Then secret mantra, it's the more subtle polishing that needs to occur. So here, the commentary says, one abandons the coarse defilements of one's mental continuum through the vehicle of characteristics and the subtle ones through the path of mantra. Or to put it differently, the pratimoksha and bodhisattva vows, and this is part of the vehicle of characteristics, are taught to be indispensable as the support of the mantra vows. So later we'll look at how to practice the three sets of vows. So here he says, then more specifically what we're saying is, you cannot maintain the mantra vows, the mantra samayas, if you are not maintaining the vows taught at the level of the bodhisattva vows and the individual liberation. Prati moksha means literally individual. Prati is each and every individual in that sense. Moksha, liberation. And so in order to observe the tantric or sutra or mantra samayas, it is indispensable that you also practice the bodhisattva vows and the vows of individual liberation. So he quotes Atisha. The Buddha taught that one accomplishes awakening supported by paramita and mantra. Furthermore, the Dakini Jala Samvara Tantra says, yoga does not arise from such things as paintings and cast statues. if you make great efforts concerning the resolve for awakening, this turns into the deity of yoga. Here, sometimes it's translated differently. Here it's saying, like when you practice deity yoga, your deity doesn't arise from the statues and the tankas. In other words, don't practice deity yoga as if you're turning yourself into a statue or a tanka. What you're turning yourself into is bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is the essence of the forms of the deity. Moreover, the Parishodhana Tantra says, if you realize the unsurpassable resolve, which is bodhicitta, for the awakening of all the Buddhas, whichever gnosis is taught by the victorious one is taught as the essence of the mandala. So here it's saying, although there are many names, for all the different wisdoms and this and that, bottom line is we're talking about bodhicitta. The Dorshema teaches the example of the vehicle of characteristics being the sword and mantra being the tempering. Furthermore, this is the case since even King Indrabhuti would not achieve Buddhahood if he lacked the vehicle of characteristics, as it is necessary for abandoning the coarse veils. Moreover, neither would such bodhisattvas as Sudana achieve Buddhahood if they lack mantra, as it is necessary for abandoning the subtle veils. So King Indrabhuti is, example of someone who generally is said that he practiced secret mantra and achieved Buddhahood. Then Sudana, it is an example of someone from the sutras, specifically the Avatamsaka Sutra or the Gandavriya, where he visits, 52 teachers. And his journey is famous. And again, nothing explicitly secret mantra in that telling of Sudana's journey. Likewise, in Indrabhuti's life, nothing explicitly talking about Sutrayana, but here it said that actually, no, if you know how to look, you'll see that even though Sutrayana is not mentioned explicitly in King Indrabhuti's life, or secret mantra is not mentioned explicitly in Sudana's stories about Sudana's practice, they are there. Atisha said that this is similar to the cases of the Yamantaka yogi Tarpa Nakpo in this text called Sanje Gongpa Duba, or of the Shravaka Sandapa monks. In short, the mantra practitioner first enters the perfection vehicle and attains the stages below the 8th. And from the 8th stage onwards, enters mantra and abandons the subtle veils. So according to the actual practice of mantra, it is said that it doesn't even start until we have arrived at the 8th bhumi. That primarily it is the first 7th bhumi that then takes you to the 8th bhumi. Those are what the Paramita Yana accomplishes. Moreover, the attainment of the state of Vajradhara is such that our teacher Shakyamuni began by offering his head and limbs for many eons. Then at the end of practicing the conduct of the Sutra Perfection vehicle, in Akanishta, he received empowerment from Vajradhara. Having actualized the state of a Vajra holder, he again demonstrated the manner of attaining Buddhahood based on an emanation, namely the body of Prince Siddhartha. So what is going on here is the Vajrayana telling of the life of Buddha. According to the Vajrayana view, this life where the Buddha appeared as Siddhartha, it said that it is emanated for the purpose of demonstrating certain lessons for us. That in fact, this Buddha that is born first as Siddhartha and then achieve Buddha, and become Shakyamuni, that many, many eons ago has already achieved Buddha. And this particular life, or this particular life story that we know, is a display for our benefit. Now, we should not think that, therefore, this being that we call Shakyamuni did not go through all the trainings. The point is just that, yes, he did, but he went through this even way before what we think. And more so, we should not think that Siddhartha became Buddha only through those 6 years of practice in the forest when he left his kingdom. It says that that view will be very limited. In fact, he has already achieved Buddha eons before this particular telling that we know now. So that's the commentary for statement 23. So here, Sobisch gives us in the chart under his notes various Vajra statements that address all the different bodhisattva stages and how to match them and what's going on there. 141, he says, in particular, the elements of the first 6 stages, bodhisattva stages, which are shared between sutra and mantra, are indispensable for mantra practice. For instance, both the pratimoksha and bodhisattva vows are maintained as necessary support of the mantra vows. However, this is no mere formal requirement. Many authorities teach, for example, that the tantric deity is the embodiment of the bodhisattva's resolve for awakening. So this is not just some sort of formal requirement, and this is not just some sort of like, oh, you have to go through the motions. Here it's saying that, for example, if you thought, like the bodhisattva's vow and the trainings to protect that vow, to enhance that vow, if you think that they are just kind of things that you have to go through in order to get to the profound things or the actual stuff, then you're mistaken, because what is the state of Buddha? The state of Buddha is none other than the embodiment of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is not something just to go through in order to get to the more profound things that are taught in mantra. In fact, everything taught in mantra is to ensure in the successful full manifestation, full actualization of bodhicitta. And bodhicitta is produced on the basis of renunciation and disciplined ethical conduct that is taught in the individual liberation vows. So they are all aspects of the same thing. So then Sobisch provides the stories for the names mentioned in here. Tarpa Nakpo, what happened there. Then he says he's not able to track down this reference to the Sandapa monks, the Shravaka Sandapa monks. But he says maybe it has something to do with, but it's not clear to him why this name is mentioned. I think his people the Kempos that he worked with also don't know what this reference is. Then leads us to statement 24, and this is important, very important. The 3 vows, which is the pratimoksha, the vows of individual liberation, then the bodhicitta resolve, which is the Bodhisattva vows, and all the trainings to protect that resolve, and the secret mantra samayas, the commitments, right? These are the 3 vows. They're not like only 3 things. One vow number 1, one vow number 2, vow number 3. They're really 3 sets, 3 collections of vows, trainings. The 3 vows are a single vital topic. In that, and what is this topic? They teach us how to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions that are the thing one must avoid. So in other words, all 3 vows is about purifying, avoiding, not getting yourself involved in the creation of the 10 non-virtuous actions. So this has some interesting kind of important implications. I've read to you how the views of other traditions, sometimes they say that in the 10 non-virtues, for a bodhisattva, the 7 non-virtues related to physical and speech, there are times where it is allowed or appropriate to not keep them. So the notion of sometimes you have to lie in order to do a good thing, or sometimes you have to steal in order to do a good thing, or sometimes even you have to kill in order to do a good thing. So if the good thing is to protect your bodhicitta, then you're allowed these 7 non-virtues of body and speech. There they say the 3 non-virtues of mind that you are never allowed according to general Sutrayana. Then they say in Mantrayana, even the non-virtues sometimes of the mind, the 3, can be allowed if you know how to transform them, right? So Kyobpa Rinpoche will say, no, this is not the right view. And he would say, even if you have the right view, because in some ways you could explain this in a way that makes sense, how you're allowed. He says, even if it's not wrong view, but the way it is expressed is unskillful, because it will lead people into thinking, or it will lead people into having wrong understanding of how karma works. First of all, karma works without mistake, meaning that killing, the act of killing, can only lead to the karmic result of killing. Stealing leads to the karmic result of stealing. Lying leads to the karmic result of lying. Even if you say, oh, my intention was good, but a non-virtue is a non-virtue. Your good intention it's a virtue, and it will produce a corresponding virtuous result. But to say that, oh, my motivation was right, even if I had to use a negative action to accomplish, therefore somehow the result will be mitigated, or that these 2 can mix together and produce something good, right? We have already seen again and again, even though we have only looked at, parts of 2 chapters, that Kyobpa Rinpoche will say, no, that's too fuzzy, that way of looking at things and that way of understanding. You need to be very clear. And virtue seeds ripen as virtuous result. Non-virtuous seeds will inevitably ripen as non-virtuous. That they're not mixed up. You do not produce hybrid karmic results. Now, so if you look at the commentary, he says, to abbreviate this topic because it is easy to understand and well known, there is no case within all three vows where the Buddha permits non-virtue and prohibits virtue. So he says, just to summarize, to state it another way, yeah, there's nowhere that the Buddha permits or recommends non-virtue and dissuades people from virtue. Moreover, if one illustrates this concerning the single vital point of killing, the Vinaya teaches killing a human being as the third of the four defects. Moreover, the Bodhisattva Samvara says, heedless of another's confession, striking him out of anger. Furthermore, the Mahavairochana Tantra says, and to harm sentient beings, these defects are associated with affliction by nature and cannot be repaired. Thus, in the Bodhisattva vows, not only killing, but even striking constitutes a root transgression. In the mantra vows, too, it constitutes the second root transgression, since in the lower vow systems, the Buddha prohibited causing harm as by killing or striking. Furthermore, it is the third root transgression because one would be harming siblings in Buddha nature. The fourth root transgression also occurs because one would be abandoning love for sentient beings. Since such illustrations are very certain, this is easy to understand. So he's giving examples of how something explicitly stated in the individual liberation vows, although not stated explicitly in the Bodhisattva training, it is already covered under the Bodhisattva training. Yeah. So only in the Pratimoksha does it explicitly say, killing a human being or killing an animal. Then he says, but then if you look at this, the Bodhisattva training, you don't even need to get to the point of killing. It says even if you strike someone, that is already breaking the vow. Then if you go to Mantrayana, right? And here, this is not the example he gives here, but I can give you. In Mantrayana, it says, even if we, just by perceiving someone as ordinary and rather than perceiving them as deity, in a way, you can say you have already created the karma of killing a deity. Yeah, so much more when you get angry with someone and you think that they're a demon, you know. Then not only have you killed the deity, you have turned the deity into a demon, such as the Lojong tradition says, you know, do not turn a deity into a demon. Yeah, so these are, you know, the trainings that we are involved in. So then in a way here, you know, this is not what is said here, but later you'll see how it said that as the vows progress along, they become more and more demanding. Yeah, so in Pratimoksha, it's actually quite loose. And then Bodhisattva level, it's like if you strike someone, strike with your words or strike with your fist, you have already caused harm. And then in mantra, to even look at someone or relate to someone as ordinary, you have already killed or damaged the deity. Sobisch gives the notes here. According to many people, each of the three vow systems comprises instructions that treat the practice of virtue and non-virtue differently. In the Rinjangma, they cite unnamed, you know, opposite view that quotes Shantideva as saying, the merciful one, out of farsightedness, permitted prohibited deeds to them. That is to the bodhisattvas. So yes, you know, you can quote Bodhicayavatara, where Shantideva seems to say, oh, the Buddha allows you to do some non-virtues if you are a bodhisattva. So the Rinjangma says, yes, you can look at sections like that, quotations like that. Thus, people argue the bodhisattva can act in ways that the Buddha has prohibited for the Shravakas. Accordingly, there are, quote, occasions where non-virtuous action is permitted for the benefit of others, and there are teachings instructing the performance of non-virtuous acts within the context of the pledges of mantra. And so, for example, in mantra, superficially, if you look at secret mantra, there are some instructions saying, if you don't liberate, which is like a key, which is like a not key, which is like a coded word for kill. If you don't liberate the evildoers, it's breaking your samaya vow. So then that is interpreted as, oh, when necessary, even if you might have to cause harm, is permitted. So there are ideas like this. According to the opponent, the three vows, quote, the three vows are practiced individually because of their inner contradictions. Meaning, so the three vows, there are some inner contradictions, so you have to practice accordingly. And the idea is that the higher you are in terms of which vow you're keeping, then you are allowed to ignore. If there's a lower vow that contradicts a higher vow, then you hold the higher vow, and in doing so, you don't break the lower vows. That's a very common view to this day. Many practitioners think in this way. Kyobpa Rinpoche says, no. This is all very fuzzy. This is all very imprecise way of looking at things. In fact, don't. This is wrong view, he says. So this wrong view is very subtle. So I will say, before you go, oh, wait, just pause here and say, if you think you understand immediately, also pause here. If you think you don't understand immediately and you want to argue back, again, I tell you, pause first, because this is a very subtle point, but very crucial point. This is very much the way Kyobpa Rinpoche teach, as how to see very clearly, and not make this mistake. So continuing here, Sobisch says, since they comprise contradictory instructions, one does not practice the vows at the same time, or as some people claim, they, quote, do not exist together in one and the same mental continuum, unquote. In particular, as the Dorshema points out, some people hold that, quote, the sage allowed the 7 non-virtues of body and speech for the great beings. Like the Buddha allowed the 7 non-virtues for the great beings. Furthermore, according to Dorje Sherab, some people claim that tantric adepts chiefly abandon wrong views, cognitive misorientation, and ignorance. Having realized emptiness, the primordial complete purity of the ultimate reality of all phenomena, then everything they do after that is purely virtuous. This is to say that misconduct of body and speech is in a sense no longer possible because the Bodhisattva's correct view of reality outshines the non-virtuous aspects. And so Dorje Sherab quotes a tantra. If one does not alter true reality, then even though one has dwelt in the great four defeats, it is like a cloud in the sky. This is a pure, excellent path. Meaning here, in this tantra, it says, if you don't move from this realization of reality, then even if you commit the 4 defeats, this is talking about the 4 very serious vows in the monk's vows, like killing someone, stealing. So these 4 defeats, even if you commit them, if you have the right view, this is the excellent path. Of course, in the Gongchik tradition, we have to say, you have misunderstood that statement. You have misunderstood the quote. And Buddha doesn't teach things like this. So in contrast, Rinzhen Changchup points out that the Gongchik's extraordinary understanding, here translated as intention, I think you should say understanding. The Gongchik's extraordinary understanding is the single vital topic of avoiding all the non-virtuous activities and accomplishing the virtuous ones. Here and in the Dorshema, the term vital topic is described to be like a life force. There's only one possibility. The Buddha prohibited non-virtue and permitted virtue. Any deviation from this damages the vows. The vital aspect here is like a damaged vital organ, causing all sensory faculties to automatically cease functioning. Meaning, if you don't have this vital point, if you mistake this vital point, then everything is damaged. And then Sobisch writes, he says, as I have shown elsewhere, the three vows have been a central theme in Tibetan Buddhism from the very beginning up to the present day. In fact, Sobisch, many, many years ago, wrote his PhD dissertation on the relationship between these three vows. His dissertation is rich with all the materials that he has looked at on all the different positions. And in fact, there are differences. And many Tibetan masters say that all the Buddha's teachings, if summarized as practice, are included in the three vows. As is clear from the basic sources of all schools of the New Translation period, the Sarma, meaning Kadampa, Kagyü, Sakya, and from later Nyingma sources as well, all Tibetan Buddhist traditions agree that the three vows not only can, but must coexist in the mental continuum of a mantra practitioner. So Sobisch points out and say, now, we're not saying, that there are existing or historical traditions necessarily that say you don't need the second of the three vows, or the third of the three vows, or the first of the three vows. They all agree that they have to coexist. The debates between these schools focus chiefly on how they coexist. Yeah? And how they coexist, each tradition has a different way of articulating that. And so here is the Gongchik's way of articulating how they coexist. Opponents of this view were most likely, this view as in what Kyobpa Rinpoche is addressing here, right? Opponents of this view were most likely the early mantra practitioners of the time before the second spread of the teachings in Tibet. Some of them apparently held that one abandons the Pratimoksha vows when one takes the Bodhisattva vows, and one abandons the Bodhisattva vows when one takes the mantra vows. A somewhat similar view was held by a later Indian acharya called Vibhuti Chandra. Around the beginning of the 13th century, he taught a system in Tibet according to which the three vows coexisted, but where the mantra vows outshone the lower vows, like the sun outshines the stars and the moon. Accordingly, as long as one maintains the mantra vows, breaking the lower vows did not have any consequences. All Tibetan writers of the second spread refute such views. Jikten Sumgön's view echoes this consistent presentation of the Buddha's teaching as a unity. According to him, as stated by Dorje Sherab, it is impossible that concerning all three vows, they would for some become obstacles and for some become supreme achievements. Right? He says that's not possible. In other words, non-virtue in any form is to be abandoned through all three vows. I feel maybe Sobisch is a little generous. He says, oh, they all agree. I will say, actually, I don't know. So you can see, you can, be on the lookout when you read about how people talk about these three vows. I certainly personally feel there are people who still would carry that view taught by Vibhuti Chandra, which is that the mantra vows, outshines, because it's the highest, it outshines the other two. So that maybe not in real life, because in real life, I don't see people, well, thankfully, I don't see mantra practitioners saying, we're going to go kill someone in order to free them from creating negative karma. So not in real life, but in kind of theory, I do see, what I do see is people saying things like the mantra level outshines the other levels. So, as a mantra practitioner, alcohol is allowed. In the mantra practitioner, sexual desire is okay. And there are people, who carry views like that. Maybe that's like a popular, interpretation. But nonetheless, I think it's there, And so Gongchik makes very clear, like this is, you're missing the vital point if you think that non-virtues are allowed. First of all, in the Buddhist system, it's not even an issue of allowed or not allowed. This is not a God-based system, So who is in any position to allow or not allow this or that? In fact, Buddha prescribes and proscribes. Sobisch uses prohibit and permit, to prohibit and to permit. I prefer prescribe and proscribe. I think to permit and to prohibit is already kind of moving in the direction of like God-based systems. So God is in the business of permitting or prohibiting. To proscribe and prescribe, these are medical terms, and it's consistent with the image of the Buddha as the supreme healer. So a doctor doesn't prohibit or permit. Of course, when we are kids, our parents want us to maybe think of doctors as permitting and prohibiting, kind of a more top-down. Oh, the doctor say you cannot, da, 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 da. The doctor say you have to, da, 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 da. Right? But actually, I think better to say, to prescribe, the doctor prescribes the following. This is your prescription, right? We even say that, not this is the permission. You're permitted to take the following drugs. No, this is the prescription. And proscription is what the doctor recommends. No, you should not. You should not take sugar. You should not this. You should not that. Proscribe. So first of all, it's not an issue of allowing or not allowing. Then second of all, those places, especially in the Tantra, where expressions like, you can liberate or you can kill. Obstructors. These are coded language. These are not talking about actual sentient obstructors, but rather the obstructors that manifest in our minds. Yes, that you quote unquote kill or liberate. But never the case that you're allowed. So questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
It seems to me that if we're not really practicing Vajrayana until the 8th Bhumi, that all of this is kind of moot for most people, that we're still subject to.
Yes.
But they're also.
So we're not practicing Vajrayana, meaning we're not on the level of Vajrayana. Right. We're practicing Vajrayana techniques.
Correct. Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
But it also, you can kill a lot of things, but not literally kill a person. You can kill confidence. You can kill respect.
Yes.
I mean, so your killing has a much broader interpretation.
Yes.
So basically, anytime you harm anybody else by doing basically anything, isn't that the bottom line here?
Yes.
With
you're out of line. Correct.
Mind?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's almost like a bodhisattva level. Killing someone's confidence, killing someone's, faith, killing someone's hope, like in a negative way, not like letting them see clearly. That's different. That's not killing. That's liberating, right? If someone is hoping on something that is hopeless, right, and you help them see that, that's liberating them. But if you kill someone's hope out of vindictiveness, like, this person is never coming back anymore. Okay, get over it. That turns into killing because you have hurt that person even more and you have not helped to free that person. Yeah, so going beyond like the traditional or the more conventional way of thinking about individual liberation, bodhisattva, mantra, right? Going beyond those kind of more formalistic, you can think in terms of this, like on the most basic level, don't kill as in, like taking of lives. Don't kill. So that's at the first level, the ground level that we should strive to achieve as much as we can, right? Then the more inner level of that is, as you express it, don't kill people's faith. Don't kill people's ability to improve themselves. Don't kill people's confidence. Don't kill in that sense. Then on the secret level of not killing is don't kill people by thinking of them as ordinary. And along the lines of ordinary, bad, wicked, all that. So that's the secret mantra level of killing that we should not engage in. The bodhisattva level of killing is, as destroying someone's faith, destroying someone's confidence. Then the outer level of killing, right, is poisoning someone, murdering someone. So these outer inner secrets are the three levels of the vows, and they all do not contradict.
Dr. Lai?
Yes.
In the well-known example of the father saving the children from the burning house by asking them to come out, they don't come out. and then he says a lie. He tells them that he has toys for them to please come out. So in that example, which has also been applied to the Buddha from my understanding, would we say that the untruth that was told by the father is still an untruth? And maybe it's because the father is not perfectly skilled that he was not able to get the children out without telling an untruth. So would we say that the untruth does have some negative karma, but the intention of saving the children and doing good has also a positive result?
That will be the Gongchik view of that.
Right. And the positive result does not change the fact that he had to lie to get the children out. But we would hope and imagine that the negative karma of lying in that situation is going to exist, but it's going to be outweighed by the positive karma, the good karma that was achieved by, it's not that they cancel each other out. They both are existing. They both are created. Is that
and Gongchik, I think, wants to just leave it at that level and say they both exist.
They both exist.
I would say the Gongchik will not go further to say, even to say, you know, what you very carefully tried to say, right? The unskillful use of lying, the effect is,
if you were more skillful, you could have gotten them out of the house without lying.
Like it pales in comparison to if you let them die inside because you don't want to lie. Right. And that will be, so you can say that. Like
it's also similar to the situation.
Negative karma of having to lie to them pales in comparison to you stuck on your vows, you know, I don't want to lie.
Right.
So my not lying is more important than they're dying in there.
Right.
And that would be very negative.
Right.
Yeah.
It's similar to the case with the captain on the ship who killed the person who was going to kill all the passengers. If he was more skillful, he might have been able to find a way to dissuade the criminal without killing him. Okay.
Yeah. And always when you tell that story, when I was teaching undergraduates, you know, the first thing someone will say is like, hey, why does he even need to kill this? Can he just tie this person up and hang him off the boat, you know, the ship for a while until they get, you know? I was like, well, yeah, that's true, you know. And I remember way back before I understood Gongchik's position or was exposed to it, I would say, well, that's beside the point. Let's not argue that, you know, because the story is da-da-da-da-da. But as it turns out, that's a good question, you could say. If you're really skillful, you know. So I think, again, if you bring it back to the level that, you know, less extreme examples and all of that, you know, then it's a good thing, like in our daily lives, you know, to not so quickly say, because I had the right intention, therefore, my use of something that is not so good is okay. Because we do that a lot. Yeah, and from this perspective, it's saying, if we cultivate more awareness and mindfulness, then we won't go to the easy way out to achieve some even good outcome.
If we're more skilled, we can do it.
And we can develop to be more skilled, right? So for example, someone asks me, would you like to do this or do that, right? And I don't, you know. So then common decency tells me I should not say no because I'm going to disappoint or hurt this person. So I don't tell, quote unquote, the truth, right? Then what do? Well, the easy way is to resort to an innocent lie. Oh, I have an appointment. I can't. It seems like innocent enough. But these things add up, you know, on your own mind. And also in relation to that relationship, it will add up. It's not going to disappear and go somewhere. That's, I think, you know, the practical point about this, without going to extreme examples, you know, that is telling us, think again, you know. Now, it's not saying, oh, just tell them the truth. No, I don't like to hang out with you. It's also not saying that, you know. But it's saying before you resort to seemingly innocent ways of getting yourself out of a bind, think again, you know, think again. I want to use one example that is kind of a trigger thing. And so I want to use it very carefully, because right now, here's what I've been thinking, you know. And let's not discuss it. So I'm going to be dictatorial about this, because well, there's no end to talking about this. But one example I can kind of yeah, it's related to United States handling of this COVID-19, you know. One mistake, I think, very big mistake, was how essentially the CDC and the different, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and just to be clear, you know, I don't read alternative news either. I'm really not. Just these issues don't normally interest me. I'm not saying they're not worth interest. It just doesn't. I'm telling you where I'm coming from. But I think the CDC, and then I have a friend who works for like FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management, you know. And I remember very clearly at the beginning of this pandemic, whenever anybody suggested that people should be wearing face masks, this friend would post vehemently saying, no, face mask is useless. CDC already says this, and FEMA, I work for FEMA, already says this. And my experience of face mask is from Asia, you know, for the longest time, people have wore this. And then, you know, they would say like, well, the reason is because it's to prevent people from rushing and hoarding the N95 mask and all of that. This is an example in my mind of you lie to people because you think you're doing a greater good. You don't want the people who really need it from getting it. And then giving, like, really, from my point of view at that time, kind of like these crazy, like, oh, no, it doesn't help. By the way, we need it. Like, it's even a bad lie, you know, like it just doesn't add up, you know, even if the motivation is good. And today, why is there such, you know, I mean, people who don't believe? Because somebody undermined it earlier on. Somebody told a lie. It's part of, I'm not saying it's totally why, and there are people who insist, you know, even now the mask is useless. And again, I don't want to get into these debates, but I'm using this example, like, because somebody that matters undermined it. And here we have this bigger problem, you know. So what the Gongchik is saying is that it's never a good idea, you know, to take the easy way out with like a white lie, so to say. But it's also not saying that absolutely, you know, therefore, if you tell one, it's just saying, just be aware, you know, when you make decisions, there are consequences. So that's how I read it, you know, because until you're a Buddha, you cannot avoid all of this. Until you're a Buddha, you cannot avoid all of this. Right? Because, you know, we're living in samsara, we make our choices. But when we make our choices, we should not kid ourselves. We should make the choices with a clear mind that here I am doing what I would consider to be lesser of two evils, evil nonetheless. And when the karmic results come, I should not, you know, pretend like, what? Why do I deserve this? But to say, well, there is cause and effect. Hello, you know. So to me, I'm far from, you know, perfecting how to observe the 3 vows. But at least I will say the take-home lesson is, you know, when suffering comes, you know, don't act like, what? I don't understand. How can I, you know? No, it's there, you know. Yeah, it's there. So I want to tell one story, and then we can end for today. Many years ago, one of our teachers, very well revered teachers in Drikung Kagyü, Drigung Rinpoche, he did not travel out of India a lot. In fact, he came to the West only one time. But he did go to like Singapore and Malaysia more than once. But the very first time he went to Malaysia and Singapore, his translator at that time told this story. So when he was in Malaysia, and in Malaysia, the organizer for this first visit did a very big, fancy event. Big stadium, you know, tens of thousands of people. So obviously, to pull together such an event, you need a lot of support. And the support is not just money, but it's also influence in the government. After all, Malaysian government is a Muslim government. So you want to do some big thing like this, you better have the right connections and the right pool and all of that. So anyway, then they scheduled for Rinpoche to meet, you know, some of these influencers. And one of them was a very wealthy and influential businessman. So husband, wife, and daughter. So they had a lunch with Rinpoche or something like that, or they met with Rinpoche or something like that. So the husband at that time asked Rinpoche and said, Rinpoche, I would like to know, can you advise me? Can you look into it and tell me what is the problem? Because I have a lot of health problems, and I have the best doctors. And then he proceeded to talk about how he has helped to do charity. And the translator said, I can tell that he really wasn't like bragging, but he was just trying to kind of be very honest, explaining how, in his point of view, you know, he has really not done anything, you know, that would karmically explain why he has so many illnesses despite. So then he asked Rinpoche that question, you know. And then before Rinpoche answered, he tried to provide an answer himself. He said, Rinpoche, can you see if this is like maybe my past life, you know? Then Rinpoche immediately say, no. And Drikung Rinpoche's style is very direct. He doesn't mince words. He's not going to sweet talk anyone. Yeah? He's like, no. Then the businessman thought maybe Rinpoche didn't understand the question and said a little bit more. And Rinpoche, like, you know, more like harsh, wrathful, like, no, don't talk about past life. Rinpoche said that. And of course, it's very surprising to this guy, because a lot of Buddhist teachers like to talk about past lives, right? Then Rinpoche said, no, this life. Of course, Rinpoche is also based on Gongchik, you know, Gongchik says, you know, right? One of the statements we say, yeah, cause and effect, you know. You can see it all within this life, you know. You don't even need to talk about past and future lives. So Rinpoche is like, no, just this life. So this businessman was saying, but this life, Rinpoche said, what? You are saying that you have not committed any non-virtue this life? Of course, you know, the businessman is, you know, like, and Rinpoche said, not possible. If you have no non-virtue this life, you will not be sick. You know? So the guy still wasn't that really convinced, you know. Then Rinpoche said, let me ask you some questions. And he asked the guy, what's your business? How do you make your money? And he said, I sell wood. Basically, he's in the logging business. I sell wood. So then Rinpoche said, okay, you sell wood. Rinpoche said, I'll just ask you some simple questions then about that. Then Rinpoche said, is your wood consistently, every batch that you sell, the exact same quality? He was like, no, it's wood, you know, it's natural. He said, yeah, I know. And he said, now let me ask you this. When the quality is slightly less than before, do you lower your price or do you tell your customers? Oh, okay. So now the businessman is sort of understanding where this is going. So he said, well, no, because, you know, this is not how we do it in the business. Rinpoche said, I'm not asking you about business. I'm telling you about karma. So then the businessman tried to defend by saying, well, you know, I have to take care of my family, you know, no. Then Rinpoche said, family, I see. He said, okay, now let me ask you some questions about that. He said, how many people in your family? He said, 3 of us, me, my wife, and my daughter. And Rinpoche said, oh, okay. Can you tell me how many homes you own? And the guy was like, didn't really want to answer. So Rinpoche said, okay, forget that. Just tell me the house that you live in right now. How many rooms? He's a big businessman. He said, Rinpoche said, bedrooms, how many? He said, something like 6 or 7. He said, oh, 3 of you. You have a house with 6 or 7 bedrooms. Okay. Now let me ask you other questions. Each time you sit down and eat, how many dishes? Chinese style eating, right? How many dishes? So the guy said, whatever he said, you know, Rinpoche said, oh, 3 of you? And you tell me that you have to lie and cheat because you have to protect your family? And you now come here and ask me why you are sick, pretending that you don't know and you have no negative karma from this lifetime, and you want me to dig into your past lifetime to tell you what negative karma you did in your past lifetime? He says, just look at this lifetime and don't come here and ask me ridiculous questions. So now, tata, leave. The translator was terrified. He said, you know, Rinpoche was very strong words. I tried to minimize what he was saying. And he said, Rinpoche could tell. Rinpoche stared at me and said, you translate exactly what I said to him. The translator knew like this was a big deal guy for the event, you know. Rinpoche could care less. Then chase the guy out, you know. So, yeah. Virtue and non-virtue, you know. So in a way you could say Rinpoche is not like, you know, hating this guy, right? Rinpoche is not, you know, necessarily guilting this guy, but this guy came to ask a question. And even dad say, you know, maybe it's my past life. Rinpoche said, no, don't talk about past life. Let's start this life, you know. And then you want to claim that I'm innocent. Why should I be sick? You know, I give so much money to hospitals to let them heal other people. Yeah, but where did your money come from? There's a price for everything. Don't pretend that you did not enter this bargain. You did. So then, when things play out, you know, don't like, I didn't do that. So Gongchik says the Buddha taught, you know, right? The first Vajra statement. The way things are in their essence and the way they play out according to cause and effect. These are the two topics that the Buddha taught. The emptiness aspect and the appearance aspect. The appearance aspect always manifests according to how cause and effect operates. And there's no mistake there. Changju Semcho Rinpoche Magye Banam Kagyü Kepa Nyampa Mepa Gone Gongdu Belwar Shore. Okay, ta-ta.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.